Frequently, we hear about how kids today are lazy and just want to have everything handed to them, and boomers everywhere are hearing the legitimate complaints that millennials and Gen Z are making every day about the conditions they face. And those same boomers are completely sensory deprived of the actual material conditions faced by those same kids. Much to my disappointment, many of my fellow Gen Xers are following their example. Instead, they complain about millennials and something about avocado toast or something. And it's no secret that the younger generation today are facing something very serious. Look at this. According to the Statistical Research Department, in the fourth quarter of 2023, 51.8% of the total wealth in the United States was owned by members of the baby boomer generation. In comparison, millennials owned around 9.3% of the total wealth in the U.S. in terms of population distribution. There's almost an equal share of millennials and baby boomers in the United States. What's interesting is how the economic reality is viewed by the individual groups. 65% of millennials and Gen Zers are legitimately worried that boomers will have a negative influence on their financial future. But only 45% of boomers agreed that their generation's financial decisions will at least somewhat impact the future of younger generations, as if somehow the majority believe that what they do to the economy has no effect on anybody else. Retirement? Gen Z is worried most of all. Gen Z is the least confident they'll be able to save enough money to retire. Alongside recession-scarred millennials, they're outpacing older generations in 401k contributions in order to address this fear. And they're hurting badly. According to the Centers for Disease Control, in the last decade, there's been a significant downward trend in adolescent mental health. That's 13 to 19 years of age. The rates of poor mental health and suicidal thoughts and behaviors are even higher. In 2021, almost 60% of female students experienced persistent feelings of hopelessness or sadness during the past year. Nearly 25% made a suicide plan. Close to 70% of LGBTQ plus students experienced persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness during the past year. And more than 50% had poor mental health during the past 30 days. Almost 25% attempted suicide during the past year. White students were more likely than Asian and Black students to have ever used select illicit drugs, and Black and Hispanic students were more likely than Asian and white students to currently misuse prescription opioids, and Black students were less likely than almost all other students to currently use alcohol, but more likely than Asian, Hispanic, or white students to currently use marijuana. Of note, although Black students were less likely to report poor mental health and persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness than some of the other groups of students, they were significantly more likely than Asian, Hispanic, and white students to have attempted suicide. So, what is causing this? In my opinion, it's in psychology what we call a locus of control. More specifically, what they've been experiencing is a perceived lack of control over the future. I'd say it's no perception. It's very real. A locus of control is the degree to which an individual sees having control over their lives, whether or not they have any agency. A person with a healthy internal locus of control will feel that it's possible to make good things happen to them, to be successful on their own terms, to have the power to create their own happiness in life. A person with an external locus of control will feel like they are at the mercy of forces beyond their manipulation, beyond their control. The events and happenings in their life are something outside their ability to influence. Their lives are not directed in the way that they choose. They feel like they have no power over their own lives. Many factors go into determining this aspect of personality, like many others. Genes often play an important role. The individual's childhood experiences, as well as values and beliefs given to them by their parents and society. Most of all, I think, their lived experience in trying to exercise that control, a control that honestly, they don't have because of the crisis in the political and economic spheres of capitalism. They lack a self-efficacy because there's nowhere to reach to. The goals they want to reach in life, or the goals that they have been told are possible to reach, just simply aren't there. They simply are, for the most part, out of reach. These good paying jobs are not around. And you, the boomers, attack them for not having them. Wages are so low they can't buy a house, and then you attack them for not buying them. You tell them to go to school, and then there's no job waiting for them that uses those skills. And then you attack them for asking them how they're supposed to pay for them. Those minimum wage jobs you demand that they do in order to pay them off don't actually pay enough in order for them to do so. Then they get buried in debt. And when they complain, you attack them. You set the whole thing up so that they can't win no matter what. Boomers, and to a degree, Gen Xers, sold them this middle-class American dream nonsense. And we Gen Xers sold it to them, and to an extent, we didn't even get it. We knew it was a lie, and we sold it to them anyway. That makes us doubly guilty. Some of us are facing the same situation the younger ones are now, and we have the same complaints. Did we too grow up too soft or something? The post-war prosperity you coasted off of is over. It has been over for decades. If I'm old enough to see things have changed, then I know you saw things changed as well. Listen to these kids. They're not whining. They're airing legitimate grievances that you aren't taking seriously. Something is very wrong with society, that mental illness is growing like this. It's downright foolish to think that 2 whole generations are simply not tough enough. Listen to them. Help them deal with a society that is poisonous and is killing the future. We made that society. We are responsible for that. Do something before it's too late. Boomers still hold most of the wealth and almost all of the political power. What power there is under a bourgeois dictatorship anyway. Because if you don't care about them, then you're not caring about the future. And if you're not caring about the future, then it's truly you who are the me generation. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.